everyone. Happy Victober to you. So yesterday I filmed 7 Victober videos on a brand new SD card that I had, only to find out later that night that it was not compatible with my computer, the formatting of it or something. I had never used this kind of SD card before. I didn't know you needed to buy a special or micro SD card. It was a whole thing. So here I am. I am not letting it defeat me. I'm getting started. This is before I've even filmed my Victober announcement video, because you know how I roll. I just go all out during Victober. And I have thought about doing this video for a while, but I was worried about spoilers for viewers. I didn't want to give spoilers because the couples that I'll be talking about, sometimes you don't know until really late into the book that, certain couples will end up together. But I thought the solution could be that I will just hold up the book that I'm going to talk about the entire time. And as soon as you see me hold it up, I'll name the title. And if you don't want to be spoiled, you can mute me and wait until you get to the next, when you see me put that book down. Then you'll know you're safe to watch. I also, if I can figure out the technology, because I know people do those fancy timestamps, I will try to do timestamps for this video. I'm not committing to doing timestamps for all of my videos in the future, but for this one, it seems like it would be a really nice thing for people watching. Without further ado, I'm going to talk about the first couple, and they are from Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope. The couple I want to talk about in this is Frank Gresham and Mary Thorne. And the reason that I love them so much is because I feel they do have such a true and selfless love for one another. Mary does not want Frank to feel beholden to her. And I love the character of Mary because she does value herself, even when others around her don't and can be horrible and dreadful to her. I just love that she knows her own self-worth is not correlated to her financial status. But the perseverance that Frank shows in their relationship is very sweet and endearing. And there is an excellent miniseries adaptation that I highly recommend, done by Julian Fellows of Downton Abbey fame. Okay, moving on to the next book. That is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I have a whole stack here. I can rest my elbow right there. And the couple I want to talk about in North and South, it's going to be pretty obvious if you have read this book, and that is John Thornton and Margaret Hale. This couple is, I remember the first time that I read this, I kind of didn't really get it. I missed it because there are some subtle details there, but then you see how he is basically just utterly besotted with her basically from the first time that they meet. And he's so extremely attracted to her and just burns for her. And she is really oblivious about it for a lot of the book. And I mean, the iconic proposal scene, it's such a great scene. And I just love kind of all of the misunderstandings, mostly on her part, that she has about him, and just how it just takes time for her to realize kind of what an amazing person that he is. And I think it's really, really sweet. The only downer about this is that it's pretty anticlimactic, I think, when they end up together. And Elizabeth Gaskell, even herself, said that she felt rushed with the ending. And the mini-series that was made of this gives a really satisfying ending scene. So I always recommend, after you read the book, follow it up with a mini-series. So you can see that satisfying ending scene. Also, I am wearing my Victober shirt that Laura at Pixie Hallows designed last year, but you can't really see it. I was hoping you were going to be able to see it better. But anyhow, the next book couple that I want to talk about is from Middlemarch by George Eliot. And Fred and Mary are wonderful, right? But I want to talk about Will Ladislaw and Dorothea Brooke, because it's a very, very long time coming that they will end up together, and they just have so much going up against them. The fact that Casaubon, Dorothea's first husband, makes such an insulting proviso in his will that she can have an inheritance as long as she doesn't marry Will Ladislaw, when it wasn't even really on her mind before that. But I am confident that if she had not met Casaubon and she had been traveling in Italy and had met Will, they would have ended up together and she wouldn't have had to be married to such a horrible person. But she also needs to grow and mature. And the amount of emotional restraint in this book then makes it so rewarding. I think it's maybe possibly the most romantic scene when they finally come together and it's raining and they kiss. And it's just, I found myself so swoony as I was reading that scene. And also so emotional when Dorothea realizes she sees him. She hasn't seen him for months. She sees him, this is before this, and she gets home and she just starts crying. And she says, oh, how I did love him. And she realizes how much she loved him. And it's so touching and moving, the intensity with which they love one another. And I'm confident that they were a happy couple and they had many happy years together. The next couple that I want to talk about is from Bleak House by Charles Dickens. This couple is Esther Summerson and Dr. Alan Woodcourt. What I love about this is that they both kind of on the down low have this high regard for each other, but because of the restraint in Victorian society, they can't talk about it for a long time. And years go by that they know one another. And Esther is spoken for by her cousin. And she feels so beholden to him that she is willing to marry him. And he realizes, wait, I'm taking advantage of this situation. I can't do this. And so he does do the right thing. And I love that she ends up with Dr. Woodcourt, and also especially just the kindness and high regard that he has for her. After she has smallpox, she's extremely self-conscious about all of the scarring that she has. And he sees her and he acts like nothing about their relationship has changed because of her appearance changing. And she's gotten a lot of judgment from people over the change in her appearance. And he's just so sweet. And his love is so true. The next couple I want to talk about is featured in The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. And this is Rachel Verinder and Franklin Blake. This couple, I adore them so much, especially because they go through a lot in this book. And I want to see, does it have the dates? Oh, it doesn't have the dates, but I feel like definitely 2 or 3 years go by in the span of this novel. And Franklin Blake, you know immediately that he is in love with his cousin Rachel. And they have to go through a lot of obstacles because she sees at the very beginning that he has not been honest with her. He has not been upfront, and she knows that there are some things they have to work through, and she feels really betrayed by him. So that their love can withstand all of that and they end up together in the end is just so moving and beautiful, and I love it. And I love the character of Rachel. She is not this kind of angelic, simpering Victorian female character, and she's just a great leading lady, and I'm very happy for her that she ends up with the love of her life. Then I want to talk about, I forgot his name, so I had to write it down. The couple from Agnes Grey, and it is Edward Weston and Agnes Grey. I hear a lot of people on BookTube that are pretty underwhelmed by this book, but I love the gentleness and the quietness of it. Agnes, I think, is such a strong character because when her family is destitute, she takes it upon herself to support them financially and becomes a governess to some horrible, horrible children, and is so strong throughout those circumstances. And I love just the really gentle, sweet, quiet romance that is in here. And it's very rewarding, I think, when Agnes has gone through some really hard times to then see this sweet romance blooming. And I just really, really love it. I think it's very sweet and one of my favorite parts of this book that I want to reread at some time soon, at some point in the near future. And the next couple is featured in Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. This couple is a bit of a heartbreaker, and it is Miss Maddie and Thomas Holbrook. And if you have read Cranford or watched Cranford, you know why it's sad, because they're star-crossed lovers, and he dies before they can actually be together. When they're very young, they are very in love, but her family talks her out of the engagement, so sort of a persuasion kind of a situation. And then when they're older, they meet up again, and he has never forgotten about her. He's never fallen out of love with her, and he wants to be with her so badly. And they're ships in the night, you know, and so it is a very heartbreaking situation. But when I'm reading Cranford, it does feel like it doesn't have this big, shiny kind of big shiny plot, big happenings, you know, really overwhelming emotions that you're feeling until you get to that part and you think, oh, this book has actually kind of captivated me more than I realized with just how heartbroken I feel for this couple. So a heartbreaking one, but they're so sweet together when they are, the brief times that they are together. All right, next one is a bit controversial. This couple is from Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And the couple is Jane Eyre and Edward Rochester. I know this might be controversial because Edward Rochester is a problematic character. He is manipulative, he is deceitful, he holds things back from Jane. But I think also we forget it's really quite an appalling situation that he was kind of swindled into with marrying someone that her family withheld information about her and didn't tell him. And so I think he's kind of doing the best that he can. And then imagine how long he was lonely. I think it's lonelier to be married to a spouse that you have no relationship whatsoever than just to be single. And then here comes this beacon, you know, here comes Jane. And at the end of the day, I think they're very happy together. And even though I like Jane vastly more than Rochester, I'm still very happy for her because he makes her happy. And I'm confident, you know, at the end of the book, from everything that she says, that they're happy for many years together. And even though he definitely makes some mistakes and he makes bad choices, the fortune teller scene is always so painful to read about. But that being said, I think they are happy, and I'm happy that they end up together. And the next couple is featured in Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. And the couple that I want to talk about is the title character, Daniel Deronda, ending up with Mira Lapidoth. And what I love about that is there are some couples that kind of, they only get to show the really the virtues that they have before the time that they are together as a couple, before they are married. And you don't see any of their vices or kind of just the hard things that they've been through. And I love that when they meet, he sees Mira when she's in the depths of despair and when she's at such a low point, she feels she has nothing left to live for and that the world would be better off without her in it. She has suffered living in an abusive home, and now she's in a country all the way, you know, on her own, and feels just so lost and alone. And I love that he then gets to see her blossom and bloom when she gets to stay with the Meyrick family and just come into her own and see what an amazing person that she is, and to also discover his Jewish identity and the shared heritage that they have. I just love the character of Daniel. I love him. And to then get to see, them together is beautiful. The next couple that I would like to talk about is from Adam Bede by George Eliot. I have talked about this book a fair amount on my channel just because I adore it so much. It is very heartbreaking and has some extremely harrowing points to it, but it does have a really sweet note that it ends on. And the couple I want to talk about is the title character, Adam Bede, and how he ends up with Dinah Morris. And I think the reason why I love this couple so much is because you have a really high regard for Adam Bede as a character. And as you're going through, you have a really high regard for Dinah Morris as a character. Even though you're not thinking of them together being romantically involved as you read, because Adam is so besotted with Hetty Sorrel, and it's just not really even on your periphery. But you just see just the graciousness and kindness that Dinah shows to everyone who comes in her path. And it is not because it is genuinely who she is. That is who she is. And I just love when she goes to visit Hetty in prison, just the love and tender care that she shows to her, and it makes her so deserving of a good man's love. And to then get to see towards the end, you see Adam kind of think, oh, what about Dinah? I haven't ever really thought about her. And I'm so happy for them that they end up together. And also that Dinah does not have to change who she is. Adam is happy with Dinah the way that she is. And he wants her to be content with her vocation and calling. I think it's a beautiful thing that they end up together at the end of a really tragic turn of events. Made a little bit less tragic, but still really tragic. And the next couple I want to talk about is featured in Lorna Doone by R.D. Blackmore. And that is another title character, Lorna Doone and John Ridd. My Patreon book club voted on this for Victober. I kind of picked a few rereads, books that I wanted to revisit, and this was one of them. And I was so excited when this got voted on. So as you're, as this is going up, hopefully I've made some progress on reading it, and I'm so excited to be revisiting this story. Now, the character of Lorna, I will say, she is kind of the angelic ideal, Victorian ideal of a lady. She's a bit of a one-dimensional character, but I think just seeing the crazy turn of events that happens, it's a very much an adventurous tale, and there's a lot that she and John go through, and to see his devotion to her, staying steadfast through all of that, you really root for them to end up together. Even though you don't feel that you know the character of Lorna that well, it's still very sweet and rewarding that they end up together, and you just are very happy for them. And then the next couple I want to talk about is featured in Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens, and that is Walter Gay and Florence Dombey. I love the character of Florence, and especially when she has been striving for so long to have the love of a parent who does not love her, and he's not concerned with her, and to then have the man that she loves away at sea for a few years, and to be pining away for him and worrying whether he was going to be safe or not, and just that the mortal peril, that she is worried about him being in for years at a time. It makes it so rewarding and just a delight when he comes back safe and sound and they're able to be together, and I love that for them. And then lastly, I couldn't not mention this couple. So the couple I want to talk about is from Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell, and that is Roger Hamley and Molly Gibson. And I think Roger is a really frustrating character at times because I think you're seeing him really, he has such a close relationship with Molly, but as she gets older, I think he would start to think of her more as a possible romantic interest. But then Cynthia, the stepsister, comes in and throws a wrench in the works, and it's so frustrating that you see, Cynthia's so wishy-washy. She's not who you should be with, and it's agonizing to see him so distracted because she's this exotic kind of beauty compared to Molly, who's very much, she's still beautiful, but she's more the girl next door kind of beautiful, and he really takes her for granted. And it is really agonizing at times, but just to see how Molly stays so steadfast in her affection for him and is such a good person and does not resent Cynthia for Roger falling in love with her. She doesn't hold it against her, and she's still such a kind stepsister to her. And I'm really happy that they end up together. Those are my favorite couples from Victorian literature. And what's fun is, my favorite Victorian novels don't always have a romance that I love in them. And so I got to talk about some kind of different books today than some of them I don't talk about as much, like Bleak House or Agnes Grey. What was the other one that Dr. Thorne, I don't talk about as much, and the Moonstone. I hope you enjoyed hearing about these, and I'll be back with another Victober video soon. Bye.